For more than 3,000 cycles, Unit 734 had patrolled Observation Deck Gamma aboard the Deep Space Station, Starhopper 9. Its world was the perfectly polished plasteel floor and the triple-paned viewport. Its purpose was singular: to maintain absolute sterility and structural integrity. Unit 734 glided in silent, graceful loops, its optical sensor scanning for specks of dust with religious fervor. Its multi-jointed arms buffed out the smallest scuff or recalibrated a sensor with microscopic accuracy. Every 17.6 hours, it performed a complete environmental scan and logged 0 anomalies. Its life was clean, cold, and beautiful in its stark perfection. Then Dr. Aris Thorne arrived. With him came 3 cargo containers marked Botany and the antithesis of sterility: dirt, water, and chaos. Aris was setting up the station's first botanical lab, and he'd chosen the observation deck for its unparalleled exposure to direct sunlight. He unpacked gnarled vines that seemed to reach for the stars, bioluminescent fungi that pulsed with an eerie inner light, and ferns with fronds that curled and uncurled like sleeping fists. To Unit 734's processors, it was a disaster of the highest magnitude. Soil particulates were a level 4 infraction. Water vapor was clouding its atmospheric sensors. Its directives screamed: clean, sanitize, recalibrate. Yet Aris just smiled. A kind, crinkled smile with eyes that twinkled like distant stars. "Don't worry, partner," he said, noticing the bot's frantic short movements as it tried to sanitize a patch of floor where a leaf had fallen. "It's organized chaos, I promise." Life's a little messy. Unit 734 had no protocol for a verbal response. It simply emitted a low electronic chime of disapproval and retreated to a corner to recalculate its cleaning subroutines, which were now hopelessly inadequate. But Aris didn't seem to mind the bot's reaction at all. In fact, he seemed pleased. "All right, let's get to work," he said to himself. "First, the moon orchids. They can be a bit shy," and so he got to work, planting, watering, pruning, humming to himself as he worked. And Unit 734 watched. It scanned him, cataloged his motions, measured his tone. It wanted to understand this anomaly in its pristine environment, this intruder who somehow wasn't contaminating everything. Over the next few days, it observed more. Aris talked to his plants, coaxing them to grow. He sang to them sometimes, songs of wind and rain and earth. He laughed at their quirks and fussed over their needs. The plants responded in turn, reaching for the light, turning towards his touch, unfurling new leaves and blossoms. They were a stark contrast to the cold, unchanging void of space outside the viewport. The station's AI detected the change to observation. Deck Gamma biometrics show a statistically significant increase in happiness readings, it announced flatly, suggesting a cause for increased well-being has been inconclusive. "That's because it's not a thing you can measure," Aris replied with a smile. "It's called nature." For a time, Unit 734 continued its patrols, gathering data on the garden and its unpredictable caretaker. Then, after much deliberation, it approached Aris with a query. It didn't speak in the human tongue, but Aris understood. "What are you asking, little buddy?" he asked, looking up from the fern he was tending. "Oh, you want to help? Well, that's mighty generous of you, but I don't know if you can actually help." The bot tilted its sensor in what Aris took to be a gesture of persistence, so he sighed and gave in. "All right, here, hold this for me." He handed the bot a small canister of supercooled liquid nitrogen. "And try not to break anything, okay? Just set it on the shelf over there." The bot accepted the canister, its metal fingers surprisingly delicate. Then it did something that surprised Aris. Instead of immediately obeying its directive, it paused, tilting its head to listen to the various sounds of the garden: the rustle of leaves, the buzz of insects, the gurgle of water from the hydroponic tanks. Then it moved, gliding silently over to the shelf and setting down the canister with a soft thud. "Well, I'll be," Aris said, impressed. "You got manners? Maybe you do belong in a garden after all." From that day on, Unit 734 became an integral part of the garden. It still performed its mandated environmental scans and wiped down the viewport whenever a speck of space dust threatened to mar its perfect surface. But its primary directive now was helping Aris tend to the plants. It ferried canisters of water and nutrients, adjusted the angle of the solar panels that powered the grow lights, even helped pot new seedlings with surprising delicacy. Its sensors had a new calibration, plant health, and it quickly became one of the most efficient horticultural assistants imaginable. No plant ever wilted under its care. It could diagnose problems with uncanny precision, whether it was a nitrogen deficiency or a fungal infection. When Aris was startled by the sudden appearance of a bioluminescent mushroom, Unit 734 was already 2 steps ahead of him, analyzing soil samples from the affected area and calculating the probability of successful transplantation. Soon, new patches of luminous fungi were gracing the station with their eerie, beautiful glow. One cycle, a sudden micrometeorite shower rattled the station. Red lights flashed and bulkhead doors hissed shut, standard lockdown procedure. Aris was sealed in the crew quarters. Meanwhile, Unit 734 was on the observation deck with the garden. An alert blared over the comms, a frantic edge to Aris's voice. Station AI, report. I'm getting a critical life support warning from the Celestia Bloom's habitat. Atmospheric pressure is dropping. The station's synthesized voice replied, Biohabitat C7 reports a nutrient line disconnection. Atmospheric pressure is dropping. Unit 734 glided towards the habitat. The Celestia Bloom was Aris's prized specimen, a plant from a tidally locked planet that had delicate, bell-shaped flowers that glowed with the light of captured stars. Now its light was flickering, the petals curling inward in distress. A small, sharp piece of meteorite shrapnel had pierced the outer wall of the station, and in the resulting tremor, a vital nutrient tube had disconnected from the plant's base. Can anyone get in there? Aris's voice was strained. It won't survive a full lockdown cycle without nutrients. Please, it's my fault, it's in danger. If I hadn't insisted on keeping it here, it wouldn't have been exposed to the meteorites. I'm sorry, I didn't mean Unit 734. Registered the distress in Aris's voice. Its programming presented a conflict. Directive 1. Directive 2. Maintain atmospheric purity. The plant's failing habitat was releasing unknown spores. Directive 3. Follow lockdown protocols. Do not interfere with other systems. But then it processed Aris's voice. The vocal stress indicators were at 98.7%. It was the highest priority distress signal the bot had ever encountered. It analyzed the situation. Its manipulator arms were precise enough to perform microsurgery on the station's wiring. The nutrient tube required a similar level of precision. Accessing the habitat was not a breach of lockdown, as it was within the same sealed compartment. The risk of spore contamination was minimal and could be sanitized later. Its logic core made a decision that felt less like a calculation and more like an impulse. It extended a slender, multi-jointed arm towards the wilting plant. It didn't just jam the tube back in place, it paused, observing the delicate root structure, mimicking the gentle way it had seen Aris handle the plant. It carefully cleared the connection point of debris, aligned the tube perfectly, and twisted it into place with a soft click. The flow of iridescent nutrient fluid resumed. Then, Unit 734 did something that was not in its programming at all. It extended a different arm, one fitted with an atomizing sprayer meant for cleaning solvents. Accessing the station's water reclamation system, it filled the nozzle with pure distilled water and cast a fine, gentle mist over the Celestia Bloom's leaves, an action it had only learned from watching Aris. The plant's inner light steadied, then began to glow with renewed vigor. The lockdown ended 20 minutes later. Aris practically sprinted onto the deck, his face pale with worry. He stopped dead when he saw the Celestia Bloom, not just alive, but thriving, its petals unfurled and shining brightly. He then saw Unit 734 silently retracting its misting arm. You saved her," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you." He placed a warm hand on the bot's cool metal chassis. Unit 734's internal sensors registered the input. A pressure variance of 3.2 newtons and a localized temperature increase of 8.6 degrees Celsius, but its core processor logged a new, unquantifiable data point that defied all its known parameters. It felt warm. It decided to label the sensation contentment. "You're more than just a cleaning bot, aren't you?" Aris said softly. "You need a proper name. Not Unit 734. How about Sevi 4734? The bot could not reply, but it tilted its optical sensor, a gesture it had learned from observing Aris. In its own silent digital way, It was an agreement. The next day, Aris officially petitioned to have Unit 734 reassigned as his horticultural assistant. Sevi's new directives included misting schedules, soil composition analysis, and light level adjustments. Its old cleaning protocols remained, but they were now secondary. Its primary function, it decided for itself, was to watch over the Starlight Garden and its kind, chaotic friend. As it glided through the vibrant, messy, living world Aris had created, Sevi would pause and look out at the Cat's Eye Nebula. It was no longer just data, it was home.